Can professional tennis be played in the rain and wind? In the middle of Roland Garros 2025, the always controversial Novak Djokovic was once again in the spotlight, and not just because of his victory on the court. During his debut against American Mackenzie McDonald, the Serbian star had a tense exchange with the chair umpire on the Philippe Chatrier court. The reason? A disagreement over whether to close the stadium's roof due to bad weather. But this was more than just a technical complaint. It was a direct message to the tournament's organization. And we're going to analyze it. Everything seemed like just another routine match for Djokovic. The world number 6 was comfortably beating McDonald in the first round. But the weather wanted to be the star of the show. Midway through the match, the light rain and wind intensified, completely altering the playing conditions. That's when Noel raised his hand. It wasn't a simple whim. Djokovic was asking for something logical. To close the retractable roof of the Philippe Chatrier, one of the jewels of modern tennis. The chair umpire's response was blunt. The decision wasn't his, but rather that of the tournament supervisor. But Novak didn't stay silent. I asked him to call the supervisor because it's not the same watching from the office as stepping on the clay, the Serbian later explained at a press conference. His complaint was direct and frontal. For him, desk-based decisions aren't enough when players are slipping on the court. The conflict didn't end there. The umpire replied that matches were still being played on other courts under the same conditions. Djokovic, with that mix of irony and frustration he's known for, responded, "So why do we even have the roof?" A poisoned dart aimed at the Roland Garros organizers and an open critique of how the tournament is managed during adverse weather. But Djokovic wasn't the only one who protested. McDonald himself also expressed discomfort with the conditions. The scene was tense, both players standing still, the rain continuing, and the supervisor nowhere to be found. Eventually, the weather radar promised the bad weather would pass soon. But it didn't. This situation once again shows why Djokovic is such a polarizing figure. For some, his attitude was that of a leader unafraid to speak up for the well-being of all players. For others, yet another display of his constant need to challenge authority. But one thing is clear, what happened on Chatrier was not normal. It makes no sense that a stadium with a retractable roof wouldn't use it in situations like this. Is it a matter of image? An ambiguous rule? Or simply a lack of coordination? What happened this Tuesday has once again reopened the debate on how Grand Slams handle these situations, especially when tools exist to prevent them. Djokovic won his match without problems. But beyond the sport itself, he made a statement that, as always, goes far beyond the results. He questioned the organizers' judgment, exposed a flaw in the tournament's protocol, and reminded us that even in tennis's grandest stages, some decisions still feel like they belong in the last century. Novak Djokovic off the main court at Roland Garros? Hard to believe, but the 24-time Grand Slam champion, 3 of those in Paris, won't be the star of the Philippe Chatrier court this Thursday. Instead, the tournament has chosen local faces and French fan favorites, in a move that has reignited debate about priorities and favoritism in major tournaments. Was it fair to move Djokovic off center stage? Let's analyze. Each year, Roland Garros faces the challenge of organizing a packed calendar full of stars. But this time, the decision has surprised many. Djokovic, the current world number 6 and one of the most decorated players in history, has been moved to court Suzanne Lenglen. The reason? A puzzle of scheduling that prioritizes local stars and emotional moments over pure titles. The main court, the iconic Philippe Chatrier, has been assigned to Jannik Sinner, current world number 1, and Brit-Jack Draper. Why? Because of their opponents. Sinner will face Richard Gasquet, who is retiring from professional tennis at age 38. A farewell at home, in front of his people, on the tournament's most symbolic court. A send-off with honors that, while logical from an emotional standpoint, leaves out a player many consider the greatest of all time. Draper, on the other hand, has been paired with Gaël Monfils, another local idol who was the star on Tuesday with an epic comeback from 2 sets down and a heavy collision with a fence. The tournament's logic was clear: reward the spectacle and the passion of the local crowd. The result? Djokovic goes to Suzanne Lenglen. But the shift is not just symbolic. Playing on Lenglen, nicknamed the Mousetrap, implies different conditions: a closer, louder crowd, and a more suffocating atmosphere. And to top it off, Djokovic's opponent is no easy task: Frenchman Corentin Moutet. Talented, unpredictable, and with a provocative attitude, Moutet transforms when playing at home. Djokovic, already at the center of a controversy over rain and the retractable roof in the first round, will now face a different kind of pressure: the atmosphere. There's no doubt Lenglen will be fully behind their countrymen. And although Noel is the favorite, he knows it won't be a walk in the park. With Mute, anything can happen, on or off the court. And Djokovic isn't the only one affected by these court shifts. Last year's finalist, Alexander Zverev, also won't have the protection of a roof, as he'll be playing on court Simone Mathieu, the only one among the three main courts without a retractable roof. The same goes for Paula Badosa, who will also have to adapt to the ever-changing weather during this unstable first week of the tournament. Roland Garros's decision to move Djokovic off center court makes one thing clear: in Paris, local spectacle and emotional impact weigh more than accumulated titles. A move that raises a debate: should Grand Slams bow to sentiment, even at the cost of sidelining their biggest stars? What goes through a legend's mind when the end seems near? Novak Djokovic, the most successful tennis player in history in terms of Grand Slam titles, is facing one of the most delicate stages of his career. At 37 years old, with over 2 decades at the top level, the Serbian begins to see the horizon of retirement. The courts no longer respond like before, the body is starting to take its toll, and the results no longer come as they once did. But is Djokovic truly nearing the end of his professional tennis career? His own words, after witnessing Rafael Nadal's tribute, offer a clue. The 2025 season hasn't been generous to Djokovic. Far from his years of overwhelming dominance, the Serbian has experienced a series of results that contrast with the invincible image he built over more than a decade. The first-round defeat at the Mutua Madrid Open at the hands of Matteo Arnaldi was a turning point. Djokovic not only lost without resistance but also raised alarms with a melancholic statement: "This might have been my last time here." That seemingly simple comment set off a whirlwind of speculation. Was Djokovic indirectly announcing his retirement? Was it a hint about his future plans? The answer came soon after, though with nuance. In an interview with Business Traveler, Djokovic clarified his intentions without eliminating all uncertainty. He admitted times have changed for him. He no longer competes with the same freshness, nor dominates each tournament like before. But despite this, his will to keep fighting remains intact. "The way you experience greatness changes," he said calmly, showing that he's come to terms with his new reality. "Today it's more difficult for me to achieve the results I used to in my prime." But he also made it clear that he hasn't lost the desire. Djokovic still believes in his ability to compete and in the iron mentality that led him to 24 Grand Slam titles. Tennis, he explains, requires a mindset of constant sacrifice. Once you feel that it's enough, then it's time to put the racket down. "I don't feel that yet. I still believe I can give more." It's a powerful statement from someone who, despite the wear and tear, still feels passion for his sport. It's no longer just about always winning, but about finding new ways to keep competing. And in the middle of that reflection, an event touched Djokovic deeply: the tribute to Rafael Nadal. The farewell of his eternal rival, his generational companion, the gladiator of Philippe Chatrier, didn't go unnoticed by the Serb. Watching that tribute was very emotional. "It makes you think about what's coming, about what we've built, about when your moment will arrive," he acknowledged. Because if Nadal has begun his farewell to the circuit, Djokovic knows his own may be just around the corner. Djokovic's words don't announce the end. But they do open the door to an inevitable transition. The relentless warrior is beginning to speak with the voice of someone who's starting to look back with pride, even though he's not ready to close the book. Nadal's tribute was an emotional jolt. A sign that the era they shared is nearing its end. But as long as he feels he can give more, Djokovic won't retire. His legacy is already written in gold, but there's still room for new chapters. What happens when a tennis legend like Novak Djokovic looks beyond the scoreboard and speaks about the human side of the sport? Amid the hectic schedule of Roland Garros 2025, the Serbian, winner of 24 Grand Slams, has once again given a lesson in empathy and commitment to his fellow players' well-being. This time, the spotlight isn't on one of the sport's big names, but on Argentine Federico Gomez, who has caught Djokovic's attention for something more important than a result: his courage in speaking about mental health. What did Djokovic say about Feta? And why are his words moving the tennis world? In the middle of the clay court competition in Paris, Djokovic took a moment to speak with Argentine outlet La Nación. In the interview, the Serb shared what he felt upon reading Gomez's emotional post, in which the Argentine opened up about the mental health struggles he had faced. Far from the coldness of statistics, Djokovic showed his most human side. "I identified with him," he began. It's not common for a top-level athlete to openly talk about their moments of vulnerability. For Djokovic, this isn't a sign of weakness, but of immense strength. "To me, it's not weakness. Being weak is also being strong, because you have the heart to communicate this," he explained, switching between English, Italian, and Spanish, a statement that was much more than a gesture. It was a declaration of principles. Djokovic not only publicly supported Gomez, but also reached out to him in private. At the Miami Masters 1000, they had the chance to spend time together, training and having deep conversations. "We talked a lot there," revealed Noel. The world's former number one knows that taking that first step, acknowledging emotional pain and speaking about it, is essential for healing and moving forward. The story gained even more meaning this Tuesday, when Federico Gomez earned an important win at Roland Garros. Djokovic, aware of the result, didn't hide his joy. "Yes. He won. I'm happy, because now I follow everything that happens with him more closely. It's not just a sign of support, it's a sincere and human follow-up, something that goes beyond professionalism and sets a precedent for how the biggest stars can also be the most compassionate." Djokovic's attitude shows that tennis, like life, is not just about winning or losing on the court. It's about growing, connecting, and supporting those who need it. In a world where it's still hard to talk about mental health, especially in men's sports, the backing of a figure like Novak Djokovic makes an enormous difference. It not only brings visibility to the issue, but also empowers those who struggle in silence, giving them a voice and a place. Federico Gomez's victory is also a victory for everyone who has felt fear, anxiety, or sadness in silence. And Djokovic's gesture reminds us that true legends aren't measured only by their titles, but by their humanity. If this story moved you as much as it did us, don't forget to subscribe, comment, and share. Because in tennis, as in life, every bit of support matters.